Tonight, could the US president use force to seize Greenland? The UK's Prime Minister insists he won't. Donald Trump's response, no comment. He's threatened extra tariffs on the UK and 7 other European countries unless a deal is reached for Washington to buy the territory. As Europe hints it's getting ready to retaliate, Keir Starmer insists a trade war is bad for everyone.
The use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance.
Today, the US president is warning he no longer feels obliged to think only of peace. So is that not a veiled threat or simply the latest presidential tantrum? We'll discuss that tonight. Also coming up, Spain's Prime Minister vows to find answers after at least 39 people were killed when 2 trains collided. Tributes to fashion's last emperor, the Italian designer Valentino, who's died aged 93. And find out why Morocco's football team is threatening legal action after a controversial end to the Africa Cup of Nations. That's all coming up on The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Good evening. I want to start the programme with a question. At what point does de-escalation become capitulation? Donald Trump wants Greenland. He wants to buy it, and if that's not an option, he hasn't ruled out taking it militarily. Until then, he wants to make Europe pay by imposing trade tariffs. This island in the Arctic is becoming the centre of a war of words between the United States and Europe. Leaders in Europe have been trying to walk the line between level-headed diplomacy and being firm about their red lines.
You have a desire, you have a vision, you have a request, but you will never be able to achieve that by putting pressure on us.
You can't threaten your way to ownership of Greenland, says the Danish foreign minister rather. And now Sky News is learning that this could all have been a misunderstanding, that Donald Trump may have taken to social media to escalate his trade war after some countries in Europe sent troops to the territory. So will the US president walk back his tariff threats? And if they do go ahead, how could Europe respond? We'll discuss all of that tonight after this report from our political editor, Beth Rigby.
The PM with an emergency speech in perilous times. Tensions over Greenland triggering the most serious transatlantic crisis in decades.
The world has become markedly more turbulent in recent weeks. Events are moving fast.
For this PM, it's been dizzying after Trump threatened tariffs on the UK and others who sent troops to Greenland and insisted he would take control of the Arctic island. This a rift even the special relationship can't solve.
The right way to approach an issue of this seriousness is through calm discussion between allies. But there is a principle here that cannot be set aside, because it goes to the heart of how stable and trusted international cooperation works. And so any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone.
The PM standing with European allies while being forthright with Trump on tariffs.
The use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance.
You say they are completely wrong and it will hurt the British economy, but if Trump does go ahead, to be clear, are you telling the British people that we will have to take that economic pain, and are you planning retaliatory tariffs if that happens?
A tariff war isn't in anybody's interests. And therefore, what I want to do is to avoid a tariff war, because it will be businesses, workers and families across the country that will be hit.
Is this the most serious crisis in the transatlantic relationship in decades? And how can the US remain our closest ally when it's bullying us like this?
This has been very badly received across the United Kingdom. We're allies of the United States. And we work closely with them, and therefore I'm not surprised by the reaction.
That anger on display at this US basketball game in London last night. All All the while, allies rally. An embrace for the Danish foreign minister in London today, just days after he met with Trump's top team in Washington.
The meeting we had last week left me with the clear impression that the president honestly and full-heartedly want to acquire Greenland. But we also made it crystal clear that this is a red line, and therefore we agreed that we should move this dialogue from, social media and Truth Social and other arenas into a meeting room.
Do you feel vulnerable, and do you also feel betrayed by the US, given that you have been such a close ally of the US?
I used the word surprised, and I think I will stay on that. I have no intention to escalate things.
That emergency address earlier was the gravest I've ever seen the Prime Minister, as he levelled with us about the predicament we are in and the consequences of Trump's threats. Because a break with the US, it would hurt our economy, it would hurt our security, it would hurt our way of life. And so Keir Starmer is desperately trying to de-escalate. But even as he does that, Trump is upping the ante, insisting he will impose those tariffs and he will take Greenland one way or the other. The Prime Minister then is right to be grave. We could be heading to an almost unimaginable split with the US, with all the consequences that could bring. For now, the intense diplomacy goes on. European leaders are due to meet with Trump in Davos in Switzerland this week. The PM unlikely to go, given there's no resolution in sight. Europeans want to improve the state of relations, but for now, that's further away than ever. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Westminster.
Let's go to our David Blevins, who joins me live from Washington. And David, I'll get to the friction between Washington and Brussels in a moment. But first of all, some of the reporting that our teams there in Washington alongside you have been doing about the fact that perhaps Donald Trump, is now saying that he was misinformed, before he put out those statements around the tariffs. Could you just expand on that a bit?
Yes, I think to try and explain that, Yalda, we've got to go back to Donald Trump's Truth Social post at the weekend announcing his plan to impose tariffs of 10%, rising to 25% on some of his European allies. In that post, he accused European countries, including the UK, France and Germany, of sending troops to Greenland, and I quote, for reasons unknown, and said they were playing a dangerous game. Well, in their subsequent telephone conversation, Sir Keir Starmer explained to him that those countries had sent a symbolic number of troops, one soldier in the case of the UK, in response to America's concerns about Greenland's security, not in response to America's threats around Greenland. And we understand that the president conceded he may have been misinformed. If that's the case, you might have expected him to take that as an opportunity for what the diplomats describe as an off-ramp, an opportunity to get off this track and to de-escalate. He's done the complete opposite today, insisting he is 100% determined to impose these tariffs and actually going so far as to not rule out taking Greenland by force during an interview with NBC.
Yeah, and then, David, if we get to this letter that he sent to the leadership in Norway about the Nobel Peace Prize, not getting that, saying that, he would no longer prioritise peace and that he would continue to pursue this attempt at acquiring Greenland. I mean, it was quite some letter.
Extraordinary, Yalda. Who would have thought 1 year into this presidency, tomorrow is the anniversary of the inauguration, he would be imposing tariffs on European allies and refusing to rule out taking Greenland by force. And it all appears to stem from the fact that he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize last year. At least that was the implication in a letter he sent to the Norwegian Prime Minister. In that letter, Donald Trump said, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. And he goes on, I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. I think it's important to remind people that the Norwegian government has no part to play in the awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize. Also, nominations for last year's prize closed on the 31st of January, just 11 days after Donald Trump returned to the White House, so he's never a serious contender anyway. And letters like this make it very difficult for the Nobel Committee to ever give him that prize without being accused of having done so because he's bullied them.
David, as always, thank you so much. Well, joining me now is the pro-independence Greenland MP, Kuno Fenke. Thank you so much, Mr. Fenke, for joining us here on the programme. I just want to get your reaction, first of all. I mean, the fact is that Greenland has suddenly become the centre of this war of words between the Europeans and the United States President Trump. Just how are Greenlanders thinking and feeling about this moment?
Well, we experienced this last year also with a lot of interest in our country. And I think the rhetoric from the United States and the current situation is unprecedented. I will not call it negotiation anymore. I think it's coercion, and it's unprecedented within allies, and you don't make threats to allies or even make threats or bills to annex a country like Greenland. Greenland has the right to external self-determination. Our party will work within international law and also within Danish law that adheres to how Greenland can become a sovereign state that can make decisions as a sovereign state, but also have to work with other states to be able to have a say in this world where tensions geopolitically can pave the way for countries like Greenland being taken by a big military force.
So do you, though, think that the timing of pushing for independence right now it's probably not the right timing, given Greenland itself is in such a precarious state where you've got the US president saying that he would use potentially military force or not commenting on it, but we've heard him say that in the past, and the Europeans saying they're going to stand firm?
No, I think it's absolutely the right time. Maybe we are a little bit late. I think when I came back from US 1 year ago, I told my party we have to activate our right to self-determination and start negotiations with Denmark according to the law. And even according to our law, we can have a free association with Denmark. And our law doesn't say we have to negotiate with the US or other countries. We have to negotiate with Denmark in regards to a free association and not a compact or free association, which the US has done in the Pacific. So we want to have our right as a people here in Greenland. We want our land back legally, but we are absolutely willing to work with our former colonizer, former annexer of this country, because we have families, we are connected by law, we are connected by many things culturally and language and so forth. So it's not a unilateral secession we are talking about. It's a process that we have agreed upon in 2009. And that is absolutely a viable way to cement the territorial integrity of Greenland. Because right now, big powers are questioning the territorial integrity of Denmark because they de facto annexed us in 1953 without a referendum, without a plebiscite for the Greenlandic people. And that's what we have to reckon with and also remedy and do better. And if also democratic countries, I will say Scandinavian, European, if you respect international law, you should also respect the right for external self-determination of Greenland.
But do you think, though, if you did go down the path of independence, that you would be in a position then to deal with threats coming from Russia, China, and frankly now the United States?
Never. We are not after utopia here. Denmark is not a sovereign country. Denmark has given out sovereignty to the Europe, the EU. So we came out of the EU in the early 80s. So I think we are not after utopia. We want cooperation. We want to be part of the international organization, UN, international. We would also probably be members of NATO because that's a good alliance. We know how it works. We know they are protecting each other, but it's unprecedented to see that NATO members are giving threats to each other, but maybe we've seen it in Turkey and Greece in regards to their views, but I think it's unprecedented to see that there's so much conflict about Greenland right now, but I understand absolutely the security aspect, the defense aspect of the future in regards to the melting ice. Greenland is actually warming very, very fast, according to scientists, 3 or 4 times faster. It's real. So we need to adhere to the law of the sea convention. We have to protect our sea, the air, and all kinds of stuff so that the Americans can also be safe in their continent according to their adversaries.
Does that mean, regardless of independence or not, that Greenlanders and frankly Denmark should also agree then to give free rein to the Americans over Greenland, whether it means building more bases, having access to your minerals, having more of a foothold over the territory?
Greenland is, in my opinion, our party is in for diplomacy, negotiation, not coercion. And we are absolutely also open to a new form of democratic political organization with Denmark. And that is the initial way we should negotiate with Denmark. It doesn't say we should negotiate with the US, Russia, China, or whoever it is. We have an agreement. We will adhere to that. And even though we start our negotiations, we will not become a sovereign state immediately. It will take years. It's only a decision so that we are not more divided, Greenland, Denmark anymore, so that we can reckon with the past and think about the future and maybe reconcile with each other.
Mr. Kuno Fenke, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you.
Well, you heard earlier about that message Donald Trump sent to the Prime Minister of Norway. I spoke to Kristi Bergstø, the leader of Norway's Socialist Left Party and its foreign policy spokesperson. I began by asking for her reaction. Have a listen.
I think he's trying to explain why he's doing what he is, and he is threatening the world. Trump is a threat to the rest of the world, but also to the US. And it's very important now to say to Mr. Trump that Norway will not give in to threats. We will stand firmly by Greenland and Denmark, because Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders and because we strongly defend international law.
Do you believe that the outcome of this could have been different had he received the Nobel Peace Prize?
The Nobel Peace Prize is a committee decide who is going to get the Nobel Peace Prize. It's not the government, it's not the parliament, it's not the king, it's not any political question in Norway. But my opinion is that he should not have the Peace Prize, because if you're going to deserve the Peace Prize, you should long for peace, actually. And we cannot accept a world order where might is right. And that is what Trump is doing right now.
So just your reaction then to the Nobel laureate, Maria Corina Machado, giving her, the Venezuelan opposition leader, giving her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump?
Well, of course, that's her way to try to make him happy, to try to make him choose her sides, to stand by her side. But it's not really a way of getting the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, because it's not possible to give it away or to take it back if someone has already had it. So I do understand that Trump wants this medal, but it's worthless if it's as long as it is connected to the Peace Prize and the glory.
So what are some of the tools that the Europeans could draw on to stand firm in this moment?
Well, it's of course about trade and also about defense. And I think we need to look at each other and to different parts of the world to be sure that we can stand on our own feet in this very, very strange and dramatic situation.
And where do you think this ultimately leaves NATO? In the past, we've heard Donald Trump threaten to leave it. Do you think this might be the moment in which he uses this Greenland situation and sort of, perhaps any pressure that Europeans might put on him as the moment where he walks away from NATO?
Actually, I'm afraid that he will destroy NATO from inside because NATO is made for protection, that we should stand up for each other. And when the most powerful country in NATO is threatening another one, it's a very serious situation for the NATO and the future of NATO.
That's Kirsty Bergstø, leader of Norway's Socialist Left Party. So Donald Trump has said he will follow through on plans to slap 10% tariffs on America's closest allies from next month. So where does that leave the UK? Well, since April 2025, there has been a 10% baseline tariff on all UK exports to the US. Steel and aluminium attracts 25%, and car exports has been cut to 10%, but only for the first 100,000 vehicles a year. The most likely scenario is Trump's new tariffs stack on top of existing ones, meaning most of the UK products would double to 20%. Car exports would attract a 20% levy, rising to 35% for any exported in excess of the 100,000 quota. Pharma and aerospace goods, which attracted no tariffs, would rise to 10%. The US president also said that new tariffs would rise to 25% in June if there's still no agreement on Greenland. Here's what that would look like for the UK. Steel and aluminium would rise to a staggering 50%. Well, let's go to our business and economics correspondent, Paul Kelso, who joins me from Davos. Paul, good to see you. Just first of all, how have the markets responded to the latest threats coming from Trump?
Well, that raft of tariffs you've just laid out there, you can multiply that across the 8 nations directly threatened by Donald Trump over the weekend. Perhaps unsurprisingly, European markets' response to that was negative. When markets opened this morning across the continent, it was a sea of red across the board. The losses have stabilised somewhat. The stocks 600, which looks at prices across the continent, down about 1.2%. Perhaps the CAC in France looking at the largest falls, around 2%. But interestingly, US Treasuries, the cost of American debt, the price of bonds fell. The dollar off around 0.5% against the euro. So an indication from European markets of a lack of confidence in the US. Gold up, the safe haven in times of trouble and uncertainty, already at record prices, going higher. The next market we're all really looking for, and in Davos here, where so many global, not just political leaders, but business leaders as well. The next one they'll be looking at in the morning will be the US markets, closed today for a public holiday. We'll get the US markets tomorrow afternoon, European time, for their first response to what they make of Donald Trump wielding another economic weapon against allies and disrupting the kind of trading and economic consensus that the World Economic Forum here in Davos has stood for so long.
Paul, you're at Davos. I'm going to be there in the next day or so, and we are expecting Donald Trump to arrive there on Wednesday. I mean, you know, Davos is usually in the spirit of dialogue. What are we likely to expect? I mean, it's a fool's errand to try and figure out what Donald Trump is going to do. But you know, any sense from the Europeans how they're likely to respond?
Yeah, spirit of dialogue is the theme of this year's World Economic Forum annual meeting. It can be a bit self-regarding, this event, bringing together, genuinely does bring together the most powerful people in commerce and in politics, but it can be something of a talking shop. This year, the talk is deadly serious because of this action against Greenland, and it is typically a convening point for European powers. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Union President, will be taking the stage at lunchtime here tomorrow, and the EU has at its disposal potential retaliatory measures which could be very, very grave for the American economy. There's billions of pounds in potential counter tariffs that were drawn up after the Independence Day tariffs were first set out last April. They've been on hold. There are all kinds of other measures. They could block access to European markets. European investors own a huge amount of American debt. That could matter if things escalated a very great deal. But we'll get a sense of what the European response is, not just from Ms von der Leyen, but the French President Emmanuel Macron. He's had a special address, as it's called, inserted into the programme in the last 24 hours. He will be here, one of 6 G7 leaders who will be in Switzerland over the next few days. Sir Keir Starmer, for now, the odd one out. So we'll get a chance to hear what their public position is. What, of course, this convening of people in Davos does offer is an opportunity for private meetings, for bilaterals, for negotiation to try and take the heat out of this. But all of that, of course, depends ultimately on how far Donald Trump wants to push this. And Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, one of 5 cabinet members who's part of an extremely high-powered delegation that Donald Trump will lead, he's already here. He said this evening from Davos that any retaliation against the US would be very unwise. So we'll see what the next few days will bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, thanks so much for bringing us up to date there from Davos. Donald Trump heads to Davos later this week, and more details are emerging about the 60 world leaders he's invited to sit on his board of peace to oversee a ceasefire in Gaza. The Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin has been invited to join, and they say they're seeking clarification on the offer. Russia's nearly 4-year war in Ukraine is showing no immediate prospect of ending, despite pressure from the White House. An ally of Vladimir Putin, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, is also on the list. The country's foreign minister says he's ready to take part. Also invited, one of President Trump's most ardent supporters in Europe, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. But wait for it, permanent membership is only available to leaders who pay $1 billion. Donald Trump reportedly wants the signing ceremony to be held in Switzerland on Thursday. But will other countries agree to join his board? I'll be in Davos from tomorrow to bring you all the latest developments throughout the week. You're watching The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Still to come, we report from the site of a high-speed train crash in Spain, which left 39 people dead and more than 100 others injured. And tributes to the legendary Italian fashion designer Valentino, who's died at the age of 93.
There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News.
It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week.
We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories,
but with more lively debate,
more in-depth commentary,
and more of what you need to know.
Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines.
The Wrap.
Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist. A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us?
Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office.
Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
Spain's Prime Minister has promised to get to the truth about a high-speed train crash which left 39 people dead and more than 100 others injured. So what do we know so far? One train run by Spain's publicly owned Renfe service departed Madrid at 6:05 p.m. heading southbound. The second train left Malaga at 6:40 p.m. headed northbound towards the capital. This map shows Spain's infrastructure and the routes they likely took. At 7:39 p.m, the Irio service derailed, jumping onto the opposite side of the track and crashing into the Renfe train, which fell down a 4-metre slope. Our Europe correspondent Alistair Bunkle sent this report from Cordoba.
The two trains were travelling at high speed and in opposite directions when the crash happened in the early evening darkness last night. There was no time for the second train to brake, and it ploughed into the derailed carriages on a straight section of the track that had been recently upgraded. Authorities say that they are at a loss to explain how it happened. Some of the passengers filmed the chaos in the minutes after, as the emergency services used torches to find people in the upturned carriages. The walking wounded were helped into ambulances. Many of the dead were too badly injured to be saved.
The last carriages were overturned. There were lots of people. Everyone was running.
And when I got there, I was able to carry a boy on my back from the bottom of the track because this was, I don't know, maybe 500 meters away. And I brought him here on my back. I left him at my house and I'm looking for his mother and a friend of his who was with them to see if I can find them. At least his mother, who doesn't know if he's alive or not.
Some people were okay, but some people were very, very bad. I had them in front of me and you could tell they were really bad, and I couldn't do anything.
People living nearby heard the crash and tried to save some of the passengers.
The scene was horrific. It was terrible. People asking and begging for help. Those leaving the wreckage are images that will always stay in my mind.
Hospitals across the region went into emergency mode. Dozens are still being treated, and the authorities have warned that the death toll could still rise.
The crash happened about 2 or 3 kilometres over the other side of that hill in a valley. It's a very rural, hilly area. And this is as close as we can get whilst the recovery operation is still ongoing. The police, the Spanish police, the Guardia Civil have closed off all of the roads leading to the incident site.
It's been revealed that railway unions and Spanish MPs had previously raised concerns about the condition of the line and speed limits used by trains on it. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez visited the scene today and promised that the investigation would reveal how this happened.
We will uncover the truth, we will find out the answers, and when we know the origin and cause of this tragedy, as we must, we will inform the public via the media with absolute transparency and clarity.
3 days of national mourning have been declared. The railway line will stay closed until Friday at least, and the Spanish king is flying back from a family funeral in Greece to go to the scene tomorrow. Alistair Bunkle, Sky News, in Cordoba, southern Spain.
This is The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Next up on the programme, Brooklyn Beckham publicly attacks his parents, accusing them of trying to ruin his relationship with his wife, Nicola.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Rich and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Brooklyn Beckham has publicly attacked his parents while addressing their long-running feud on social media. Our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer joins us now. And Katie, I mean, for those of us who've been paying attention to this has been playing out on social media for some time now, several years, on and off again relationship.
Yeah, ever since Brooklyn got married back in 2022 to the daughter of a billionaire. She's an actress, Nicola Peltz, and he now lives in America, but it's been very noticeable that he hasn't been a part of the Beckham family dynamic. And as a power couple, Sir David and Victoria Beckham have remained one of the most talked about couples in the world because of how brand Beckham is projected. They cross sport, they cross music. The core part of their identity, though, is the family being photographed together as a unit, and he has been very much noticeably absent from that dynamic. Now, what he's done, though, tonight is published this extraordinary 6-page rant, almost, if you like, onto Instagram, explaining how he feels absolutely frustrated, pretty much. He says that he has been painted in his eyes to look like he is the problem, if you like. He's because he hadn't commented on when his father was knighted. He didn't attend his father's 50th birthday either. The press, to some extent, over the summer had interpreted that as his wife controlling him. And in this statement, he says that narrative is completely backwards, that he says he feels that he has been controlled pretty much for most of his life by his parents. And he goes into details of the fact that he had been in the UK for his dad's 50th birthday and that he had wanted to attend that. And he also goes into basically wanting to sort of strike out reports that it is his wife calling the shots. This, of course, is Brooklyn's version of events. There are two sides to every story, and we have reached out to his parents tonight to get their side, but we're yet to hear from them at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, there was all sorts of blocking on social media that played out as well over Christmas. You know, Katie, they put out different things, and then the children got involved, the parents got involved. I mean, it's really been quite dramatic over the last few months.
Yeah, blocking over Christmas was Brooklyn's mother, Victoria Beckham, liked a post that he'd made about cooking, a fairly sort of innocent post, but that seemed to snowball into her son blocking her on Instagram. And he's obviously felt the need to comment in more detail. And should we just go into some of the things that he says? He says, "I've been silent for years and made every effort to keep these matters private. I do not want to reconcile with my family. I'm not being controlled. I'm standing up for myself for the first time in my life. My wife and I do not want a life shaped by image, press or manipulation. All we want is peace, privacy and happiness for us and our future family." And he goes on to talk about the fact that he feels that he's been controlled by a family that value public promotion above all else, hitting out the brand of Beckham, of course, is hugely embarrassing and the opposite to what brand Beckham is known for. They are known for very publicly having this sort of strategic approach of silence and speaking on their terms in the documentaries that they've made in recent years. But this statement tonight effectively throws that approach out of the window. Their eldest son says he doesn't want to be a part of their lives. We, of course, have contacted the Beckhams over this. We're yet to hear from them, but we will update you, of course, when they put a statement out, which you would imagine that they will feel compelled to do so after this.
Katie, thanks so much. The world of fashion has today lost one of its all-time greats. Italian designer Valentino Garavani has died at the age of 93. He founded his fashion house in 1960 and quickly gained international acclaim, dressing some of the world's most glamorous women. His foundation says he will now lie in state in Rome before his funeral on Friday. Sky's Oliver Whitfield-Mijecic looks back at the designer's life.
He was a designer obsessed with glamour. Valentino rubbed shoulders with and dressed the rich and famous.
This is a Valentino, all top to bottom.
And I'm wearing Valentino. Yeah, fluff me, baby, fluff me.
From Hollywood A-listers to former First Ladies, Jackie Onassis was one of the late Italians' muses. This was a couturier who championed curves and femininity.
Always been very, very concerned to beauties. I love beauties, I love making women sensational, glamorous, elegant, and I never destroy the human being body because I respect the proportion of a woman very, very, very much.
Aged 17, Valentino left Milan to study dressmaking in Paris before opening his first boutique in Rome a decade later. His love of dark red became a signature colour, reappearing on runways throughout the years. Industry insiders say Valentino leaves an unmistakable mark.
He had the celebrity factor, the signature color, and a very, very singular brand vision based on formality and ultra luxury, and authenticity. Like he lived what the brand was. He was the brand, and the brand was himself.
Before the turn of the millennium, Valentino sold his business for $300 million. It then became the first Italian fashion brand to be listed on the stock exchange. By 2007, the stylist to the stars retired, but his passion never faded.
I'm still really motivated because I love my job very, very much. And is a sort of work that if you are not extremely involved, if you don't do this with great guts and great capacity.
From draping Kate Winslet in a green Grecian gown to dressing up Lady Gaga in a purple periwinkle showstopper, the allure of Valentino still remains, and his name lives on through the company he founded. Oliver Whitfield-Miocic, Sky News.
This is The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Next up on the programme, a festival of football descends into chaos. Senegal storms off the pitch in the African Cup of Nations final.
I'm Cordelia Lynch, Sky's Asia correspondent, based here in Bangkok.
These slums, once gripped by fear and death.
There is far less bloodshed now, but it hasn't gone away.
Who's asking you to kill?
The police will give me the orders, and after I kill the target, I throw the gun away.
We try our best to uncover and unpick a fast-changing and deeply complex region.
These large waterways provided an excellent source of body disposal.
This is the Buriganga River, where victims who'd allegedly been shot dead were dumped.
Sheikh Hasina, how confident are you that she will stand trial?
She will stand trial, there's no doubt about that.
We're going to take you to the very heart of a criminal network, going undercover inside Southeast Asia's scam centres for the very first time.
We won't have any problems with police, it's okay. Just seen Imran Khan leave, and as we understand it, he's just been shot in the leg.
They have decided that the only way they'll allow elections is if I'm inside jail or killed.
Sky News get the full story first.
Chinese vessels start encircling the boat we're on, blocking its path.
The Chinese are now deploying water cannons, firing it directly towards our boat. We've discovered doctors across Delhi dishing out pills like this, claiming they will provide a lifelong cure for homosexuality.
Rohingya people fleeing an escalating civil war.
The situation here in Cox's is desperate. An already insecure place does feel a lot more precarious.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist. A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
A historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report, and this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Chaos now in the world of football, with the final of the Africa Cup of Nations descending into farce when Senegal walked off the pitch in a protest at a penalty. Well, let's bring in our sports correspondent, Rob Harris, who joins me here. Rob, what on earth happened?
Well, this was one of the most dramatic finals ever witnessed, the culmination of a month of football in Morocco. A huge moment for the hosts, trying to win their first AFCON title since 1976. And then it all descended into chaos in stoppage time. So it looked like we're going to go to extra time, the game at 0-0. Then take a look at the action now, and we see Senegal thought they'd struck a winner. There we go, thought they'd stunned the host, starting to celebrate, but in this day and age of VAR, you can't do that because the referee ruled the goal out for a foul. And already Morocco facing accusations of favourable refereeing at this tournament. Then they were awarded a penalty. Still time for this final to take another twist. Here we go. A penalty being awarded to Morocco, a chance to win it, and absolute fury from the Senegalese. The coach there, absolutely aghast at the situation, astonishingly ordering his players off the pitch. Scenes we hadn't seen in a major final before. And there was a stoppage of around 15 minutes or so. It took Sadio Mane to say the players should come back on, of which they did, and then, incredibly, that was the miss, one of the softest penalties that you've seen taken, and it meant the game did go into extra time, Morocco missing their chance to win it, and in extra time, it was Senegal who produced this stunning goal, Pape Gueye, winning the title for Senegal, just like in 2021. Now they've won it twice, Morocco just with their one title, and the heartbreak of missing out on the home soil on a night of such drama.
Yeah, so much drama. So what's been the reaction to all of this? Because I saw somewhere that Morocco is now looking at taking legal action.
Yes, they're pursuing legal action against the Confederation of African Football and FIFA. It's not a FIFA event, it's a CAF event. And they're saying this situation, the walk-off, had a significant impact on the normal course of the match and on the players' performance, effectively saying, you know, this impacted their minds. And the big question raised, if the players have been taken off the pitch, well, that sets a bad example to footballers all around the world at every level. You could have kids potentially walking off. Should a referee then have just awarded the match to Morocco at that point? FIFA president Gianni Infantino has spoken out as well. He normally quite picks his words carefully, but on this, he said it's unacceptable to leave the field of play, and equally, violence cannot be tolerated in sport, and saying you've got to respect the decisions of the match officials. And this was shown disrespect. There was also violence in the stands. There were Senegal fans fighting, and even afterwards, and the Moroccan manager, the Senegal manager was in the press conference, and the Moroccan journalists were booing him.
Wow. I mean, this is the point, right? The fact is that the precedents this sort of thing, you know, could lead to. So is there any other action that's going to be taken against Senegal at this point?
Very hard to see the result re-awarded, the trophy suddenly handed over. Potentially, the coach could get a ban. Would that then carry over into the World Cup? They're qualified for the United States. But someone who came out of it pretty well is Sadio Mane for actually guiding the players back on the pitch. But we do often have sport descending into legal battles in this day and age, and maybe they'll be trying to pursue it, but we don't really see results decided again in the courts. And it could just lead to some bans, particularly also the precedent that's set and questions over what action should be faced because of this example that has been set. The fact you can take your players off for 15 minutes and then bring them back on. I mean, that will destabilise an opposition. We could have every team around the world doing it now from this day forth. A penalty is awarded, you take your players off the pitch and you create this disruption, and then eventually you come back on again.
Well, let's have a listen to Mane, because you talked about him.
It would have been a shame and sad to see this kind of scenario happen. Just imagine for a second going into the locker rooms and the football match stopping there. I think that would convey a negative image of our football. I think Africa today does not deserve that. African football has evolved in an incredible way, and the proof is that it is followed all over the world. So on my side, I did what I had to do.
Some are talking about this being, you know, a stain on African football. That's some of the big language. But this was a successful tournament. Organisationally, for fans moving around the country, a good test event for the 2030 World Cup. They're co-hosting at Morocco with Spain, Portugal, and as well as 3 countries in South America as well, who've just got some of the opening games. But it's a big chance for Morocco, this. And although there was chaos at the end, it was largely a successful month of football, with Morocco showing its new stadiums and another 115,000-seat stadium still to be built in Casablanca before 2030.
Wow. Rob, thanks so much. Well, we've been tracking developments in Syria this weekend after growing tensions in the region, and frankly, so has Donald Trump. He's been speaking this evening to the Syrian president. Yesterday, the Syrian government signed an integration deal with the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. They manage most of the prison camps holding members of the so-called Islamic State. Tonight, the Syrian army has said a number of former fighters have escaped a prison that had been under SDF control. The SDF say they lost control after an attack by government fighters. We'll try to make sense of what's going on in Syria this week. And as I said, I'll be spending the rest of the week in Davos. Good night from the team and I for now. The news at 10 is next. Goodbye.